you ever feel like you're so close to reaching that next level, but there's just a few things holding you back? Today, I got my buddy Duke, who's a very solid player trying to reach that Pro Tour level, and I've pinpointed 5 aspects of his game that I think will help him get to that level he's chasing. This can apply to everyone. This is knowledge that can really help everybody, and I think we all should know. Let's dive in. I'm gonna take you behind the scenes on how I'm gonna help Duke figure out what's holding him back. All right, the first and most obvious thing Duke needs to work on in order to level up is turning his serve into a weapon, not just a way to get the ball in. The serve is one of the most important shots in pickleball because it gives you the chance to take control of the point right from the very first shot. You can use the serve to set up your ideal third shot, and this leads to a ton of opportunities. If Duke can start serving with purpose and strategy, he'll be setting himself up to dictate the rally and force his opponents into tough positions from the start. To get him there, we're gonna focus on 3 crucial keys: improving his weight transfer into the ball, letting his arm swing flow naturally, and planning his serve to set up the perfect third shot. All right, so the first thing I want us to work on is making sure that your serve becomes a weapon. And the reason for this is because at the highest level, people are using their serves not only to generate errors and bad decisions, but they're using it to set up their third shot. We have full control over the shot, right? We're tossing it. We basically can control exactly how we get to hit it. So I think it's super important that we make sure that we make our serve a weapon, and not only a way to get free points, but to control the next shot, right? Creating that ideal third shot, whether that's gonna be a short forehand for you, maybe a higher ball, whatever you want. You can manipulate your serve to create that third shot. There's 3 things that I really think are important for generating that power that I think are gonna help your game a lot. The first thing is gonna be weight transfer. So having like a really good weight transfer. Can you show me your stance real quick? Like how you stand on your serve?
Yeah. So when I set up.
So you have an open stance here.
A bit, yeah.
All right, show me your serve. Okay, so I like that, but the problem with having this open stance, and honestly, I do this too, right? I serve with an open stance because I feel like it's a little more controlled, but I'm trying to switch it in my game even, is having a turn stance. And the reason for this is we can load all of our weight on our back foot and drive it forwards and use our weight transfer this way by generating power from our back foot to our front foot. So that's gonna be the first thing I think we should change in order to get a little more power on your serve, is basically gonna be putting all this weight on our back foot and going forwards here and having that weight go forwards. Second thing I want you to focus on is gonna be having a loose arm. And the reason I like this is because when we use that weight transfer, it really allows our arm to whip forward, and we can make sure that we get a little extra racket head speed or paddle head speed, which is gonna give us some top spin too. So we're gonna be able to generate not only a bigger serve, but a spinnier serve, which is gonna create a lot of hesitation in our opponent, because sometimes that ball will jump different spots and we can actually get it to bounce into them.
Sweet.
So show me just a serve where you're really letting the arm go through, and then also you're generating, so do a closed stance serve here, and you're taking that weight from your back foot, almost like you're throwing your right leg forward.
I gotcha.
Let's see a few here. Good, but really like start on your back foot and feel like you're almost like just like this leg is swinging around. So start like with your weight on your back foot, like you're almost going like
even more
here.
So the important part is leaning back first.
Yeah, just setting that back weight, and then like really feel like extend your arm almost like a weight is pulling you this way. And so you're kind of just, like you're almost like extending that arm towards your target.
Okay.
Good, a little more intense with the hip turn. So really get that hip drive. That's gonna throw that leg forward. Yeah, I like that a lot more. And like that already had way more power.
Okay.
See it again? Yeah, that looks good, man. One more time. And so now what I want you to do is really focus on extending that arm towards your target. So let's say we want to hit a down the tee serve.
Okay.
Extend your arm there and really get that full weight transfer, like we're really throwing ourselves at that shot.
Okay.
Good, man. I like that a lot. Feels better?
Yeah.
It might feel awkward at first having that closed stance because we're so used to having that open stance. And even for me, that's how I felt. But I think over time, it's gonna feel a lot more normal. as it already feels for me. And it's just, you're gonna have a better result. Like you're gonna get more power.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That going from back, you're gonna be able to throw yourself out. That's gonna help.
It's just gonna allow you to get weight transfer in an easier way. If your serve can have 25% more power just by doing this, over time,
crucial.
It's gonna feel more comfortable, but that's gonna be crucial, exactly.
Also, the loose arm is something to think about as well. It's a lot to remember like in the moment, but I can imagine it'll start to sink in.
Yeah, having the loose arm and kind of throwing it forwards is just gonna allow that natural transfer of weight, right? If we have a really stiff arm, but our body's flowing nicely, it's gonna be a little counterbalance there. But if everything's flowing together as one and going towards our target, it's gonna be a lot smoother. Last thing I want you to think about on your serve is when you pick your targets and when you hit your spots, focus on where you want that third shot to be. So like, let's say I want a short forehand on my third shot. Which I would say in my mind is probably one of my favorite shots, right? That short forehand that I can, I just have a lot of control in that position. So what I'd probably do is try to hit a heavy serve to their backhand because it's gonna be really hard for them to get that ball cross court. And odds are if I hit it big enough, they're gonna leave it short here. Also, if I give them a lot of topspin, it's gonna come up off their paddle if they try and swing through it because that topspin's gonna kick up, which is gonna bring their return a little higher. So I'm gonna get to strike the ball higher.
Whack.
Exactly. So I would try a serve like this, ready?
Nice.
Like a deep serve there.
To their backhand.
Yeah, to their backhand, hoping that I'm getting this next shot. So I'm planning one step ahead. And so I think, especially at that pro level you're trying to reach, that's going to be something that's crucial. And you're almost thinking a step ahead. You're using kind of like that chess-like mentality to get ahead of your opponent.
You're always trying to set up your third and then fifth shot.
Exactly. The next big thing that Duke needs to work on is going to be increasing his transition percentage, meaning he needs to get to the kitchen line on every point because that's where you can create the most pressure and opportunities to win. To improve this, Duke needs to focus on 3 key concepts. First, the drive to drop strategy, where a strong drive sets up an easier, more reliable drop, making the transition a lot smoother. Second, increasing his drop consistency by holding the ball on his paddle longer for better control and precision. And third, using the mid-court reset, which takes pressure off hitting the perfect third shot drop every single time and allows him to get to the kitchen line in 2 shots instead of 1. Mastering these ideas will help Duke get to the net more often and create better chances to control the point. So increasing our transition percentage is gonna help us win a lot more matches. If you look at the pro level, there was actually a stat that just came out where they were making 90% of their third shot, which is pretty crazy because if you watch any amateur pickleball, that's 100% not the case. This is the shot that they struggle with a lot. I know you already have a really good third shot, but I want to show you some techniques that I think will really help you get to that kitchen line more often than not. And the first one is going to be kind of a modern way of transitioning, which is going to be the drive to the drop. And the reason I really like this strategy is because you're almost using the drive to create the perfect drop, right? It's a lot easier to drop in the ball short and in front of you rather than if someone hits a good return that puts you on your back foot. So let's say someone hits you a good return that puts you on your back foot. You can use the drive and you're not going for a winner. You're just going for something that's low over the net and that all I can do is block back. And then the next one is going to be a shorter ball, and that is going to be an easier one to transition on. So you're using that drive to get the drop. Now, on the drop, a really helpful technique is going to be holding that ball on the paddle as long as possible. So if I am taking that ball and I'm just kind of bunting it quickly, I'm not going to have a lot of control. If I almost act like I'm holding that ball as long as possible and guiding it into the kitchen, I'm gonna have more dwell time, which is going to give me more control on getting that ball into the kitchen. So use that drive, we're not going for a winner, and then use that drop to kind of float the ball into the kitchen.
Got it.
Let's see what it looks like. So show me just the drive first.
Okay.
Perfect, that's the perfect drive there. And imagine someone hits a good return and puts you on your back foot. You'd use that to neutralize me, and then you'd get the shorter block volley. So now I'm gonna give you the shorter block volley, and you're gonna really float that next one into the kitchen, and you're gonna use it to get to that kitchen line. So you're gonna drive the first one here. Nice, and then drop. That's perfect. So that right there is going to give you kind of that modern, easier way of getting to the kitchen line. And let's say I stab that next volley. It's still going to be easier than trying to hit a drop off your back foot, because I'm going to stab that volley in front of you because you're already kind of back there, and you're going to be able to take that one and float it into the kitchen. Sometimes you can even drive that fifth one, right? If you don't get the ball you like, and you're waiting for that ball to kind of, that's easy to drop and get to the kitchen.
So that is interesting, because especially maybe in like lesser games, the obvious advice is when the return is deep, that's when you want to buy yourself more time and do a nice fluffy drop, get into the kitchen, and then you're really only driving the short ones that go a little high, and that gets you going.
Totally. I think that's like a very common misconception, because we have to think about our goal, which is not to try and win the point from back there, but it's to get to the kitchen line. So if I hit a good deep return and you're trying to float that ball off your back foot, it's gonna be really hard to get it in this 7-foot area right here and float that ball into the kitchen. And on the flip side, if you're driving a ball that's short there, instead use that as a way to just roll and get yourself up to the kitchen line as like a free trip to the kitchen line. It's gonna be smarter if you drive the ball from back there when you don't get that ideal drop you like, and then you're dropping your fifth. And I'll show you a ton of examples of top players doing this. Because you're basically saying, is it easier to drop a ball in the kitchen line that's in front of me or off my back foot? Because the end all be all, the goal is to transition from the baseline to the kitchen line. So what's the easiest way to do that, right?
Yeah, and we were just saying too, like at a high level, it's so hard to win a point from the back.
It's like, so hard.
You got to earn everything.
And you'll see people hit like a good drive and the person will miss a volley. They're not going for a drive winner. They're trying to create a short ball here. And a lot of times they'll get that free mistake, but they're not going for that ball, right? They're not trying to hit that drive winner. When they do, it's a bonus. But we're really focusing on getting from the baseline to the kitchen line. That is the main and only goal.
Copy that.
So the last thing that I want to touch on that's going to help your transition percentage is going to be learning how to use the mid-court as a bridge to get you to the kitchen line. So let's say you can reset really well off the mid-court. It's going to take a lot of pressure off your drops, because when you do hit that drop and let's say you leave it a little high and I end up flicking that ball and you're in the mid-court, you're totally comfortable just resetting that ball into the kitchen, and you can almost walk to the kitchen line because all of a sudden the pressure is off your third shot drop, because you know, even if I do hit a ball that you left a little high down at you, you can just reset that ball and you can get to the kitchen line in 2 shots instead of 1. So I think learning how to have a really good mid-court reset is going to take a lot of pressure off your third shot and ultimately is going to increase your transition percentage.
So it's mentality. I'm not just saying in no man's land. For me now, if I'm comfortable, it's yes man's land.
It's yes man, exactly. And you're using it as a bridge to get to the kitchen.
The intent is still there to get to the kitchen.
That's all it is, right? We're taking pressure off that third shot, and we know that if we get stuck in that midcourt, we can reset and use it as just a bridge to literally walk to the kitchen line. And you'll see the top players do this. They're really solid in that midcourt. So a couple midcourt tips just to make this reset easier for you is just making sure that when you're moving down here, you're covering your feet. So your paddle is gonna be down, because that's where you're gonna get attacked, right? If I flick the ball at you, it's gonna be down at your feet, because anything above that is gonna go long. So we're covering our feet first and foremost. And then second, a lot of people plant their feet and they're not moving left or right. Instead, what you want to do is, let's say I attack the ball over here. You're going to step over here, you're going to get your paddle down, and you're just going to do a slight block, and you're going to be very stable with your body. If your body's moving all over the place, well then your balance is going to fall, and we don't want that. Simply just get the paddle down, step to wherever the ball is, and just block. A lot of people try and overcomplicate this. It doesn't need to be overcomplicated. It needs to be actually simplified. So let's take a look at these real quick. Okay, so you're in the mid-court. I want you to be nice and low, and then I'm gonna attack balls at your feet, and I just want you to reset the ball.
Got it.
Here we go. Very, very nice. And you see how that's super simple? Because before you were kind of swinging at the ball. Now I just want you to block that ball. Just very, very simple. That's really nice. And so let's say I get this high ball, I attack you here, and then you can just reset, and then you keep walking to the kitchen. So let's put it all together now. I'm gonna feed you a ball, you're gonna drop. If you leave it a little high, I'm gonna attack it, and then you're gonna reset. Go back to the baseline real quick. Good, go again though. Don't swing at that ball. I just want you to block it very, very nice and easy.
Do less.
Yeah, do less, exactly. Perfect, dude. And now you're at the kitchen line, right?
Yeah.
And so you did that in 2 shots instead of 1.
Yep.
And so that's gonna help you overall with your transition percentage, because if I'm able to step back and take that ball off the bounce, or if I'm attacking off your third, it doesn't matter because you're able to reset that ball and get to the kitchen line.
Instantly, I've given myself more time.
Yeah, and less pressure off that third, because you know that you can reset. The third area we need Duke to focus on is his offensive dinking and using it to strategically create opportunities. First, we're going to work on having excellent footwork so he can consistently get lined up behind the ball. Positioning his outside leg behind the ball and preparing early sets up deception, forcing his opponents to anticipate a speed up. Next, we'll focus on using a variety of dinks to keep his opponents off balance at the kitchen line. Finally, we'll emphasize leaning in after hitting an aggressive dink to take away space and maintain pressure. Just the presence of leaning in after hitting an aggressive dink is going to force errors and decisions that are not great from his opponent. Combining these elements will help Duke develop a much more threatening presence at the kitchen line, which is essential for advancing his game. Third thing I've identified in your game that I think this is the one I'm most excited about that's gonna help you the most, and that's gonna be making you a threat at the kitchen line. So right now when I've watched you play, you dink pretty well, you can lean in, you can attack, but there's a little bit of that lack of intensity at the kitchen line, and I feel like you could be a bigger presence. And so we're gonna do that by creating pressure when we're dinking. And so what I mean by that is if we're moving our feet a lot and we have nice intensity, we're getting lined up behind the ball, and then we're using a variety of dinks to really move our opponents around, they're not gonna feel like they can just sit at the kitchen line and just dink back and forth, right? Because that's actually a pretty relaxing feeling for our opponent when they feel like, oh, I'm at the kitchen line, now I can sit here and slow dink.
Yeah.
Instead, what I want you to be is a beast at the kitchen line that's constantly applying pressure.
Yeah.
And this is gonna create opportunities for you to attack. So rather than sitting there just waiting for the right ball to attack, you're gonna move your opponent around, left, right, hitting a variety of different dinks.
Yeah.
And you're gonna then lean in and look to take those balls out of the air. When you hit an aggressive dink, you're gonna hold that position down and create deception when you're trying to speed up off the bounce. But really the main thing I wanna focus on is using those aggressive dinks, those pressure dinks, and then looking to lean in. Because what this does is, this is gonna push me off balance when you're hitting these dinks.
Yeah, out wide.
And then if I see you leaning in, that 7-foot box that I have to dink in all of a sudden gets shrunk, because I know that Duke is sitting here leaning in and he's taking, you know, a fair amount of space. So I'm basically gonna have this much room to hit a defensive dink. And if you're sitting there and if I leave it a little high, that thing's gone. Okay, so I want you constantly applying pressure on those dinks and then leaning in. So get that outside leg lined up and start pushing me around, moving me around with aggressive dinking, and then looking to lean in.
You got it.
Okay, so here we go. So I'm just gonna be dinking back and forth here with you. Good. Good, push me around, like move me left and right, a little more, nice. Good. Good, and be ready to take the ball in the air, perfect. So cool. Even a little more intensity with the feet, and I really want you to get there early and like hit almost like these aggressive like push dinks like that. That's really gonna like make me get thrown off balance.
Quick.
Yeah.
Got it.
And so if someone's just sitting here just like casually dinking with you, you're able to throw them off balance easily and create a lot of pressure. And then you're gonna be able to look for that ball in the air. So let's go again here. So really intense with the footwork. A little high there.
Yeah, sorry.
A little high there, and keep the ball low so I can't attack it, but keep pushing me around. Nice. Good, man, that's it right there. Keep doing those type of dinks, and then we lean in and we look to attack.
Got it.
So right there, if we get to the kitchen line and we start applying that massive amount of pressure of moving me around with the aggressive dinks and then leaning in, we're gonna draw more errors from our opponent too, and bad decisions. Because if you keep doing this over and over, I'm gonna be like, well, I'm under a ton of pressure, I need to do something more. And that's gonna lead to more bad decisions on your opponent's part. So overall, you're just creating a really edgy, kind of difficult situation for your opponent the second you get to that kitchen line where everyone feels they're safe. We don't want to hit these casual dinks, because a lot of people would feel like when they're at the kitchen line, like, all right, I'm going to hit this, you know, slice dink, and I'm going to wait for the ball to, you know, to give, or wait for my opponent.
Half the battle.
Exactly. You want to create your opportunities rather than letting them come to you. And you do that with pressure. You do that by aggressive dinking, using variety of dinks, and then leaning in. Just you doing this right now, after you hit an aggressive dink, puts so much pressure on me. I feel like I have to hit that ball so shallow in order for you not to take it out of the air.
Exactly.
Awesome, man. So add this to your game. I think it's gonna help a lot.
I'm in.
The next thing we're going to work on is Duke's counter volley. At the high level, we need to be able to defend attacks efficiently. First, we're going to use paddle tracking. That means keeping the tip of our paddle aligned with the direction of the incoming ball. For example, when the ball is on the left side of Duke, his paddle tip is going to point this way, and if it's on the right side of Duke, his paddle tip is going to point this way. This keeps the paddle in the optimal ready position, so Duke's always prepared to react when an opponent attacks. Second, we need to keep the lower body calm and stable while the upper body reacts. A common mistake is people jumping all over the place and extending their knees during the volley, which disrupts the balance and timing needed. Instead, Duke will focus on keeping his lower body still, allowing his upper body to move faster and hit a cleaner, more solid counter volley. Finally, we'll work on using compact swings. It's natural to want to generate bigger swings so you can get more power on the counter volley, but this actually slows your reaction and timing. The goal is to keep the paddle tip from crossing your shoulders here, maintaining a short, controlled swing with the correct point of contact in front of you. This makes your hands faster. Working on these three areas will help make sure that no one wants to speed the ball up at Duke. So we want to make you a threat at the kitchen line, and we've done that with the aggressive dinking and leaning in. At the same time, we want to be able to defend attacks really well at the kitchen line, because this is going to prevent opponents from feeling like they can speed up at us, especially if we're countering really well. This is also going to force our opponents to overdo their attacks if we're countering well and they feel like they have to do more and more, and eventually they're going to make errors or bad decisions. So having a strong counter volley is going to help this a lot. Let's say I dink the ball to your right side. My paddle tip is going to follow that direction. And then same thing, if I dink the ball over there, my paddle tip's going to follow this direction. What this is going to do, it's just an easy trick to keep your paddle in the right position. So if you do speed up at me, all I need to do is just turn my paddle, my wrist, and I can counter that ball. Rather than having your paddle over here watching that ball, you speed up at me, and then I'm having to bring my arm all the way up here and counter. We're always keeping our paddle in that optimal position. So we're dinking and then coming back up to this spot right here. Second thing is going to be making sure that when someone does speed up at you, that you're not jumping with your legs or falling back. Because we do this to get a little extra more pop and to also give ourselves space between the ball and our body so we can extend this arm. And so a lot of people, they jump back to give themselves this room right here. It's counterproductive, no pun intended, because we want to be stable with our body, and if we hold our ground, we're actually gonna get more pop on this ball. So we wanna keep our lower body really calm, and our upper body is gonna be able to react faster. Third thing, just making sure that we're not taking too big of swings. Very simple, but you know, it's very, very natural to want to take this big swing to generate more power. We want to keep our swings nice and compact. So I'm going to speed some balls up at you right now. And I just want you to work on those three things. We'll start dinking first, and I won't tell you when the attack's coming. But I want you to use that paddle tracking. I want to make sure that you're not jumping and then not taking too big of a swing. So here we go. So we're just going to dink, and I'm not going to tell you when the attack's going to come. Really nice. So right there, you already took the jumping out of your game, right? You were super stable. And I pulled a bad attack here. But at the same time, you're not reacting in a bad way. You're not hesitating. You're just holding your ground and countering there. So let's do another one here. I'm gonna speed up at you again, and I want you to hold that same ground and counter down to me. And do the paddle tracking. So your paddle's following the ball every time after you dink. Nice, a little bit late on it, but a bad attack from me. With the paddle tracking, your paddle's staying a little bit lower right now. Watch me here. So I'm gonna dink. So I'm gonna dink, and then my paddle's following that ball. So I'm dinking, and then my paddle's following this ball.
Following the ball.
And so if you attack at me, I'm always in the right position, and I literally am just turning my wrist and extending my arm a little bit. I'm very, very calm. And so I want you to add this into your game. Let's do one where I attack you again. Use your paddle tracking to really follow that ball.
So it's really, as soon as the ball leaves from your paddle, I want to react.
You want to react,
earlier.
but not overreact, right? We want to react in a very calm way.
Yes.
And so when you're dinking, if you're using your paddle tip to follow where that ball's going, then you're not going to have to overreact when I speed it up at you because your paddle's already going to be in the right position. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to do less when I do attack you.
Yep.
Okay, one more here. Not telling you when the speed up's coming. Boom. Nice. Very, very nice. I love how you're taking that compact swing, and I love how you're not, you know, falling back or trying to extend with your legs. You're staying calm. I think those are two really important things.
Yeah.
Let's add that paddle tracking in. I think that's gonna go a long way. The next thing we're gonna help Duke with is his off the bounce speed up. This is a crucial skill for becoming a real threat at the kitchen line because it forces opponents to worry not only about his aggressive dinking and leaning in, but also him pulling the trigger right after the bounce. This creates massive pressure. We'll focus on 4 key points. First, lining his outside leg up with the ball. Second, keeping his paddle tip down on the forehand side for better control and accuracy. And third, preparing early and adding a slight hold before striking to create some hesitation and deception for his opponent. Finally, we're gonna focus on using combos instead of going for those one-shot winners. Placing the ball where opponents can't respond effectively and then closing the point on the next shot. So the last thing I want us to work on, this is gonna help you become a threat at that kitchen line, is just the off the bounce speed up. If our opponent feels like you can't speed up off the bounce, well then they're just gonna sit here and dink shallow and lean in because they know that you can only dink it back. And they're gonna just hit unattackable balls that you can't take out of the air. But if we have an attack off the bounce, well then they have to sit back on their heels a little more, especially if your dinks look like attacks.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that we have that off the bounce attack as an option to keep our opponents on edge. The way we do this is by footwork. It's intensity with our footwork because if we're there early, then it's gonna look like an attack. And if we get our paddle tip down, it's gonna look like an attack. They're not gonna be able to tell what's coming. So for the attack, those are 2 big things. Get there early, get your outside leg behind the ball, get your paddle tip down. This is gonna help with deception a lot. And then the last thing I think is crucial that a lot of people forget is the slight hold. If we can add this slight hold right before we attack, it's gonna create hesitation in our opponent. Their timing on the counter is gonna be worse, and they're gonna have to try and guess where we're hitting it. So feed me a forehand dink here, and I'm gonna show you what that slight hold looks like here. Right, so I'm not speeding that one up, but you can see how I'm using that slight pause.
Delaying.
Go again. Right, so it's that slight pause, and then I'll show you what it looks like with the speed up here. The paddle tip's down, and I could go anywhere, but that slight hold is gonna create hesitation in my opponent.
Love it.
Last one here. There we go. So now let's apply this to your game. So show me that forehand dink. Let's get that paddle tip down. And let's really try and use that hold because that hold is really gonna make me fall back on my heels. And also another little bonus tip, when I fall back on my heels because I'm trying to counter that ball, it opens everything in front of me. And you can actually roll the dink. So let's say you fake that like you're gonna speed up and then you roll the ball in front of me. So we're actually opening up our options too. Here.
And so am I correct in saying because you want it to be deceptive, you want your dinks to be looking the exact same way as the speed ups?
Yeah, for sure. Because we wanna create that deception for our opponent that they don't know whether it's a dink or an attack. A lot of people think, oh, make your dinks or make your attack look like dinks. I think your dinks should look like attacks, right? Because if they think something's gonna come at all times, they're gonna have to sit back on their heels. And it's gonna open up a lot of room in front of us to hit those aggressive dinks that we want. And so it's gonna be a lot scarier and more threatening for our opponent if they feel like an attack's coming every time rather than a dink's coming every time. And you can play around with this, right? Sometimes, you know, it looks like a dink and you can speed it up. Sometimes it looks like an attack and you can hit a dink. But for the most part, let's focus on just getting that paddle tip down, having that slight hold, and creating that little bit of hesitation in our opponent for the off the bounce attack. I'm gonna feed you that forehand dink and really get there early with your outside leg planted behind the ball, get that paddle tip down and hold, and then pick a target. And we don't have to go for that one-shot winner. We wanna use combos, right? We wanna place the ball here and then look to finish on the next one, but making sure the technique is good is the first part.
You want me to speed it up earlier? Or
Yeah, speed it up, speed it up. Nice. I like that. That slight hold actually, like, made me, like, I thought you were going to come at me. You went there.
I think that's a huge pickup in my game. I didn't
For
think
sure.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it creates deception. Even when I'm playing players and they do that, it's really hard to read.
Yeah, it always is.
Let's do one more here. Really intense with the footwork. Get that paddle tip down and then pick a spot to speed up.
Okay.
Nice. I like that a lot. One more
perfect
here.
shot.
Don't fall back though. That's the only thing. Get behind the ball and then you want to move forward, because a lot of times you're going to hit that forehand speed up
and it's gonna come back.
and then come back on the line because you're going to take the next one out of the air.
Okay.
So here we go. Nice. I love it. I love it.
Okay.
Again. Don't miss it though. Make sure every time we make it. Nice, nice. Honestly though, the hesitation's great. When you're putting that paddle tip down and you're holding, I don't know where you're going. Like, I can't read that. If we miss it, then it's all out the door, right? Because we're just giving ourselves free air.
Yeah.
Even if you put that ball on me and I'm able to counter it a little bit, it's not going to be a good counter. And so that next ball, you're actually going to be able to take out of the air and then win the point on that. Okay. So we're not going for that one-shot winner. We're going for combos.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Awesome, man. I think this looks really good. I think this is gonna help your game a lot.
If you've made it this far in the video, I wanted to tell you about something I've been working hard on. It's called the Pickleball Collective. I truly believe it's going to be the best online instruction out there, not just for tips or drills, but for actual frameworks on how to get to that next level. The same ones I've used to grow my own game and compete at a pro level. This is built to give you a clear path forward about how to see the game differently. If that sounds like something you'd benefit from, hit the link in the description or the pinned comment and join the waitlist. I'd love to help you level up.
All right, thanks for coming behind the scenes of me helping my buddy Duke here get to that next level. I think we picked up on a lot of good things, those 5 key aspects. What are your thoughts?
This is sensational. I mean, you're getting tips from one of the most detailed minds in the pickleball game here. The guy's a pro director, and it was incredible. The thing I probably picked up the most was the aggressive dinking.
Yeah.
A lot of times when I play that next level up, guys that are on the pro tour or what have you, their footwork with the dinking and they're pushing you back so much and you're setting up a shot for them to just put it away. Now for me,
they're creating that constant pressure on you.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so far from mindless dinking. I mean, everyone kind of knows at a good level that, like, hey, you want to put pressure on them, put them back, and then set yourself up. But you're even saying more like, make the deception, hold your shots longer so it looks like a speed up, really looking to not let them settle at the net, and like just implementing that.
Yeah, you want to prevent your opponent from doing that relaxed dinking. And the second you get to that kitchen line, you're creating a nightmare for them because you're applying constant pressure, and rather than waiting for the opportunities to come to you, you're creating them. And I think that's what really makes the difference. And dude, like, apply this to your game and you're gonna know the difference immediately. Thanks for coming out, bro. Appreciate it.